ran would be the same things that I would have to do in order to get legislation passed. But it's the knowledge, comprehension, and research that I put in to move those pillars forward.
Are there any committees that you aspire to be on if you're elected to Congress? Any particular areas that you think you can add expertise to?
I certainly would want to be a part of the Budget Committee, and I would also want to be a part of the Judiciary Committee. And that's me being an attorney. I mean, one of the biggest scares to me is that we're sitting here holding our breath, and we know the makeup of the Supreme Court. Some on one side, some on the other. That's the saddest day in America for me. You have Supreme Court justices who are supposed to go in and supposed to be impartial, and it's a big joke. And we could say, oh, well, we know that they're going to consistently rule this way, and they've been appointed by this president, and so they're conservative. It's supposed to be apolitical. These are supposed to be the pillars, the ends of justice. And so for us to even be able to put some mathematical equation to the court to figure out what's going to happen and how the justices are going to rule, that's a sad day.
With regard to that, there's a group called Democracy at Stake that's advocating for the independence of the judiciary because of efforts in the House, Florida House, by Speaker Cannon to try to divide the Supreme Court, and also efforts at the federal level of calling certain judges activist judges and so forth, and that polarization that you're talking about. Do you believe that there's a need to amend the way the judiciary runs, given your experience as a lawyer and also going into the Judiciary Committee if you're elected?
Well, it's actually, yeah, it's twofold, and that's one of the parts that would fall under Pillar B of Congress is similar to what I'd like to see happen to the judiciary. These bodies become self-policing, kind of like the bar. And so if you're self-policing, your police force better be active and working, because if they aren't, then everybody gets to rest on their laurels. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't work. It's when you don't police your own group that you allow for the ills to occur. And so realistically, I think that there needs to be a better policing internally of the Supreme Court. I think that the Senate needs to police the Supreme Court a bit more. And specifically for the makeup of the House, yes, I want to see strict enforcement of certain things. One of the things I would do under bring congressional reform, I want to change the way the voting happens so that you no longer get these token votes. You have the open vote. So we know how many Republicans voted for it, how many Democrats voted for it. It's a running tally, and then somebody can run in at the end after the bill's already passed to make a token vote. Well, that's no good. You're not really voting upon your principles now. Now you're voting upon politics. And so, in essence, there's a huge difference between politics and doing what's right in government. And so you either play to get reelected or you play to fix the system. And so I think it's clear that I'm running on the latter rather than the sooner. And the fact is that changing that, the open vote, what you do is you create a system of rules there that says, look, you have to vote. You're required to do it as part of your job. And you create a 3-strike rule, that upon the 3rd strike you're brought up for dismissal from Congress. You get 3 opportunities, and if you don't show up for 3 of them, you have a missed vote by the time it opens and closes, you're out. Sorry, congressional district. Come back and pick somebody who's actually going to come in and work.
You've answered all my questions before I asked them. I do have one question. If you win, you will be in a Congress that is held in very low regard, which means that you'll be rubbing shoulders with people that are not liked. How do you feel about that? What can you do about that?
I'm in a profession that's held in a very low regard. And unfortunately, I didn't enter that profession with that mindset. And I wouldn't enter Congress with that mindset either. I know attorneys growing up, and I respected them as people. They were people that I looked to say for guidance, for the truth, for understanding. And ultimately, that was the idea behind Congress. And so perhaps I would say, not a bit romantic about the idea, but that's who these individuals are supposed to be. You're supposed to be the pillars of society that people look up to. And so, in essence, in my life, I do everything in my day to hold myself to a higher standard just as an attorney. And that doesn't mean that when I'm in a suit or when I'm practicing. It means when I'm not. It means when I'm out at a restaurant, when I'm in the grocery store. And so it's no different in Congress. You treat people with respect and dignity, and you hold yourself to the letter of what you said you would in the beginning. And I've taken that oath to protect the Constitution of the United States on 2 different federal circuits in 2 different states. I will take it again if I'm elected. And ultimately, I will do everything I can in my power to change the mindset of the country to say, look, These are people that we should look to, that we should be proud of, that represent
I
our
have a
districts.
follow-up question.
Go ahead.
What is your opinion of hanging the Ten Commandments in the chamber?
Hanging the Ten Commandments in the chamber. This is the major difficulty.
No, don't tell me what the law is. I've read the law.
I don't know that I could answer that without telling you what the law is. Because personally, to me, I believe in the Ten Commandments. Right? But the system of government and the way the federal government was created isn't designed for me to tell the rest of the country that you have to adopt my moral system of beliefs. And unfortunately, that's just how it was designed. That's the role of the Constitution.
So then, Joe, let me interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Before you trap yourself, you would be in favor then of removing the Ten Commandments from the Supreme Court building?
No. You're missing what I'm saying. You said, say it again, federal?
No, hang the Ten Commandments in the chambers of the Congress.
Of the Congress. And now you're saying remove them from the Supreme Court
Well,
building.
you say you wouldn't want to have it in the chambers of the Congress.
This is what I'm coming down to, and not even moving to trap myself. The fact of the matter is this, that the United States, as a country, under the Constitution, you have two different parts that you can't, one, adopt or impose upon the rest of the states a religion, known as your Establishment Clause. You have the competing side of the free exercise of religion. So, whether it was there as, let's say, put in at the very beginning, the fact of the matter, it comes down to this. Take something, for instance, like marriage. This is one of those forms I was just filling out. It's for I think it's the archdiocese. So they send out the bishops send out these forms. And one of them was, are you for defining marriage as between a man and a woman? I personally believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. But as a federal representative, I do not believe that it's the role of the United States government to tell the states that they should have that defined in their laws and they can't change that. And that's difficult. So when you bring up something like the Ten Commandments, whether it's historically been put up there as something, one way or the other, the fact is that I'm touching on a higher issue, something a bit more pertinent to the role of what I'm going to be doing in Congress and the way I sit.
Well, we talked